Well, welcome back to episode 5 of Datitudes with Platitudes. Let me go ahead and shut my music off. We are joined today with Mufasa and Leather Daddy, and I, of course, am alienated. So, how's everyone doing so far?
You know, been a pretty good week. No complaints.
Doing pretty good today. Not wearing my leather, feeling more like vacation daddy today than leather daddy.
Yeah, I'm in all my Star Wars gear today. We just came from the Renaissance Festival last weekend. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Fun for some of us. Think about family trips. You're not always guaranteed for the whole family to have a good time. And sometimes that family makes it everyone's problem. But it was a good day though.
I mean, I will say that you were dressed to the nines. So.
Yeah.
Brought out the armor, the whole shebang.
So what are we smoking today?
So I'm smoking a pipe that I got at the Renaissance Festival. First time smoking a tobacco pipe. Really great experience compared to cigar smoking. You do it a lot longer, a lot smoother, no burn. Plus, a pipe this long always feels good to feel like Gandalf.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Nice.
I am, of course, hitting a Fat Bottom Betty.
Nice.
I believe this is the Gordito. It's the biggin.
Yeah.
How about you, Senor Oval Office?
Yeah, I got a Padron today. 1964 anniversary. Maduro wrap because Maduro or no life. And super good. Not usually my sweet, but my favorite cigar.
Yeah.
Highly recommend if you've never had one.
10 out of 10 recommends.
It really is.
You highly recommend if you're a big shot like you, big Miller.
Gotta treat yourself sometimes.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
But like half. All right, so we've got a couple of topics we wanted to talk about today. I think some of it's kind of going back to a little bit of just providing for the family and how we transition from. Like for me, I work full time out of the house, so I'm in office full time, and then I come home and I'm Mr. Dad and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where it's definitely a transition that you have to go from. Because I'm a manager, so I have to talk a certain way to certain people to get them to perform, and then go into dad mode is a little different. A 4-year-old toddler's a lot different than the toddlers at work.
Yeah, and one of the most unwise things a husband can do is go home and start treating his wife like an employee, because she's going to let you know really quick who's actually the boss.
Oh yeah, I do not wear the pants. She does.
Yeah, for me it's very different, right? Because I'm home all the time. So.
Arsehole.
So I'm around the wife and child all day, which is awesome. Like this morning we laid in bed from 8 till 9, just being around each other, talking. And I know, must
Man, we're doing something wrong here.
Oh fuck! Apparently.
And then, so I got to spend all morning with the baby and the wife. We cooked breakfast together. So it's good, and not TMI, but got a little afternoon delight, which is always nice.
I want you to brag about it while you're at it.
Yeah, it's the best to get it and get paid for it.
So you're a hooker.
So no complaints over here.
I'm gonna make money somehow.
Life is pretty good. I got a bit of I had a bad taste in my mouth for work last week, and things are finally starting to level out, but always keep your options open. So
I'm in a pretty similar boat to you, alienated. I go to the office every day of the week. I'm a manager, and I have a lot of call-out work that happens. A lot of people always want to call me after hours. And one of the things that
After-hour phone calls are always the best.
always the worst, because they always happen at the worst time. But started having 2 phones, one for work, one for personal. Now that I've fully separated both of those phones, I'm having a much better time maintaining a separation of church and state, so to say.
So, with how high up y'all are at what you do, how much separation can you really have, considering that y'all are like anchors in what y'all do?
So for me, very much similar. I have a work phone and I have a personal phone. Like today, I'm not carrying the work phone, so the only person that can get a hold of me right now is HR and my boss. And that's because, you do need some time for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that for me to maintain a positive relationship with my wife, my work phone goes off and stays off until from 8 till 5 a.m., 4:45 in the morning when I get up.
That's good that you have that boundary that you can do that.
And then my day starts as the moment I get up because I'm going downstairs. So I do HVAC for a living, and I manage an installation team and the field service team and stuff like that. I'm an operations manager. And so, like, the first thing I do in the morning is after I get dressed, I go downstairs, get in my office, and I start mapping out who's actually got work today. You'd think that, we're in May and we would be full every day, but, sometimes reality is different. So that is one of the things that is kind of difficult in the morning is telling people to stay home and, like, hey, I don't have any work for you today. Because that's how people make their livelihood at my job, is doing installs.
Yeah, because it is unusually cool May for us.
Second year in a row.
Yeah.
Yours is an industry that, your work depends on the temperature.
Yeah.
So, like, for you, Leather Daddy, like, when does your phone go off? Do you keep it on you all day? Like, what?
Can it go off?
Yeah, like, what?
So, I don't ever turn my phone off, but there's time when I get home, I put it down over by the little shoe rack, and I get home a little bit before 5. And unless I hear it buzzing like someone's calling, I don't usually check it until like 7 or 8 o'clock. I'll check it once, and other than that, I'll check it again in the morning. That's a good pattern I'm falling into.
Do you leave it on silent and let it vibrate, or do you turn it on loud?
Vibrate.
Oh, see, I put mine on loud on the island because, my house is pretty much the kitchen is on the back side of the living room and in between where my daughter's playroom is. And so I leave it there and I turn it on loud. And, if someone calls, then I'll answer up until about 8 o'clock because you do need to take some time for you in the evenings.
Yeah.
And that's always the worst is, you're spending quality time with your partner and then, oh, well, there's work. Work's calling. So
My main office, they're in a different time zone. So usually if someone's going to try to get with me, they're an hour behind. It'll be between that 5 to 6 o'clock time. And if they really need me, I'll hear it buzzing and I'll deal with it.
fair enough.
Gotcha.
The bigger issue is I get hit with a lot of one more things. I'm usually the last stop for ideas. Hey, Leather Daddy, do you think this is going to work? Because that's my entire role, is just make sure stuff works. And it's really hard to manage the one more things and leave on time and get home on time. Because it starts to snowball. You stay a little bit late, then the traffic starts getting worse, and then all of a sudden you stay late 15 minutes and you get home an hour late.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Georgia traffic is just awful.
did you see that we got voted number 4 worst city in in the U.S. for traffic?
So L.A., New York,
Houston?
Houston.
Either Houston or Orlando, because Orlando has I-4.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I can appreciate that, but I would say this, being that I am high up, or a senior leader in my office, because again, operations, so it goes my boss, the general manager, and then me, and then everybody else. Don't even, I'm branch level, man. There are people above my boss. There's like a whole team above him
Mr. Junior?
that reports. They call me baby manager at work. They call me BM. Sometimes I mistake it for baby mama, and I'm just, kind of a bitch all the time. But I have to draw that hard line at 3:30. because I'm up at 5, making sure people know that, hey, if they have work, if they don't have work, and from 5 to 3, that's 10 hours, and then, I usually don't take a lunch. I usually eat my lunch in my office for 10 minutes to
Same.
scarf it down,
Yeah.
and then I'm rolling. But I would say, because I work about 50 miles from my house. Oh yeah. So in the morning with zero traffic, it is all of 50 to 55 minutes because a lot of it's highway. And if I leave at 3:30, I'll get home at 4:45, 5 o'clock. But if I leave at 3:45, it's 5:15, 5:30 by the time I'm getting home. And if I leave after 4, it's almost 6 by the time I get home because of all the traffic. Because I have to go through residential areas because 85 backs up so bad.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how bad a 4 or 5 lane highway can back up.
So with those commutes, how do y'all transition from work person to dad mode or husband and is that an easy transition for you? Like when you get home, is it like a relief to be home, or is it an initial shock of trying to adjust to be in those two roles?
So that's a pretty good question. It's something I've had to try different things over the years. The worst thing I ever did for a period of time was I'd leave the office and I'd think, I got a good length drive. Let me handle up on some phone calls while I'm driving and take care of this, take care of that. All that does is you're pretty much just taking home work up until the point you get in the driveway, and there really is no decompress time.
Yeah, no, you have to, so for me, I take that hour to listen to, so I'm listening to the audiobook, The Witcher series on Spotify, or I'll listen to a podcast on YouTube, I'll throw it up on, in my center console, and I'll listen to it to kind of take myself out of that mode. You have to, granted, someone calls me, you have to pause, you have to answer the phone, you have to be accessible, but at the same time, you have to take that time to decompress, because if you don't, and if you walk into a chaotic household, so say you got family over, say you got friends over, and there's more than your child or your children there, and things are flying off the wall, you go straight from work mode to, now I have to be high intensity dad mode, and it can be a lot.
Yeah, once I started taking that drive to do some stuff for me, I ended up having a much better transition. I was just so much more productive. There was a period for 2 years where while I was working, I did a master's degree at night, and during my 45-minute drive to work, hour drive back, because traffic still gets bad enough, I just listened to all my lectures like they were just podcasts. And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of productive things you can do during your commute. Listen to audiobooks. You do school while you're doing your commute. A lot of things.
Yeah, so I had the opposite experience when I used to go into the office. I worked 7 to 3:30 because I hate traffic, and so, but I would still hit it coming home, and I'm a pretty aggressive driver,
To say the least.
and so for me, sitting in traffic is infinitely worse than being at work. So there were days when I wouldn't leave until 6 just to avoid.
So you'd be afloat.
Because I was in downtown Atlanta, right? So it was awful. But for me, there was no decompress in the car. It's let me get point A to point B as fast as I can. I'm very don't enjoy the trip. I want to get to my destination, and which is bad. And I know that's not a good philosophy. It's something I work on, but I was not able to decompress on my rides home. So then it was even longer of me trying to become the husband and father that I needed to be for my family. But now I'm in the complete opposite boat, right? Now I'm basically dad mode, husband mode, and work mode all the time. Which in and of itself, I make it sound really awesome, right? But it is hard. you know, because then your child will be running in because she's so used to seeing you as dad, and like, no, I'm work Mufasa right now, you know, work Fasa. And you can't come in here, and then you see the face of like, what do you mean, like, and it's hard. It's hard to try to wear all of those masks or faces or be the personality that each person needs you to be in that moment when it's constantly all the time having to shift.
Yeah,
It's all at the same time.
Because it's all at the same time.
Man, I applaud you from working from home because it is difficult. Like, I don't know how many meetings you have, but I have about 4 or 5 meetings a day.
About 3 or 4, yeah.
And we have to have our cameras on for a lot of them. And so, you know, my daughter likes to pop up occasionally in the office and just like, hey, what's going on? And then you're like, hey guys, pardon me real quick, let me just go handle something. The worst is when they're screaming at you that they want a snack. And you're in the middle of like a talking point, because there's a lot of those meetings that I actually have to run.
Yeah.
And having to stop that meeting to go, oh, let me go grab a banana. I'll be back.
No, so my wife is Jazzy's pretty good at, as long as I give her a little bit of notice, she'll delegate that. But sometimes the little ones, they
don't care.
They escape. So, and it happens. But my wife and I are a pretty good team. We work really hard to make each other's lives the best. We're very, we have servants' hearts towards each other, and we're very grateful for each other. And I think in having those different roles, and there's grace given, right, by both parties, and gratefulness really helps alleviate some grace.
Yeah.
And I think someone could look at all 3 of our situations and see that there's a lot of options out there to balance work, but you got to go through and see which ones work best for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
Even with the work from home trends, kind of on the outs, companies are trying to move away from it. There's still options out there, and yeah, it's never too late for a career change. It's never too late just for a position change. If that's going to cut out a commute that's really not compatible with you, or utilize a commute in a way you hadn't done before. You know, it's more than just road raging and listening to traffic or listening to music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I was gonna say, like, it's gotta be super hard doing that transition, because your transition is all of 30 seconds. All right, I'm done for the day, to straight into dad mode. And so, like, that's gotta be difficult, because.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so much good, so much more good out of it, because realistically I get to spend 10 hours a day with my child that most dads maybe get 3 or 4 if they're lucky before bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Now I will say this too, like, if you're using work as an escape from your family, then there's something inherently wrong in your relationship that you kind of have to fix. You shouldn't be wanting to escape your family. Definitely I can understand a break, like being able, if you have young kids, to, you know, use the restroom in peace. That's a big thing.
It really is, though.
Like, let me do my business. Don't come in here. Like, I got this. Trust me. I ain't gonna fall in. I don't need you to wipe me. But, you know, it
And that's really hard, especially as girl dads.
oh.
It's like, please just leave me alone.
Oh, into this. You don't need me.
Well, I guess, like, so I guess I've babied my daughter a little bit more than my wife has, because my wife makes my daughter, you know, take care of her own stuff. Except for if she takes a dump, right? Like, then obviously she has to be, you know, properly wiped. I mean, she's only 4. But, you know, I guess I've babied her to where, like, I'll go in and, you know, clean up after her and everything like that. And now it's almost to the point where she won't do it if I'm home. And it's like, come on, kid. Like, you do this all day, every day with mama. Why are you going to do it with me?
Yeah.
So I got a flip question for you. We've been talking about managing work and making sure it doesn't impact you too much at home. So how often do y'all have to deal with the inverse of, you know, trying to manage work, stay performing there when home's really needing you there? So I'll kind of lead this with a example of my own. You know, with 4 kids, always during the week there's something that's needed. It's probably once a week. There's a doctor's appointment. There's this. There's that. Or Leather Mama needs something. I gotta watch the kids. So what we've figured out that what works best for us is we really don't take big vacations. We have to use all the PTO constantly throughout the year for half days here to do this, half days there to do that. Just burn it up just to take care of all the things. Where, honestly, if I were to average it out through a year, I probably only work like 36 hours a week because I'm consistently using 4 hours of PTO every week.
Wow, that's got to be tough. I have such a big community that, and then my wife tutors in the afternoon, so during the day she can do all that stuff, and then I'll get baby in the afternoons while she's working. So I haven't run into that, but I will say, if you're in a fight with your spouse or your child's just being particularly difficult that day, it is hard to not
Bring that
into work. And I'll get an email like, why the frick are they emailing me? This is like, I'm not even needed for this. This is ridiculous. And you just get so frustrated over something so minor.
When you're projecting some of your house frustration onto work.
Exactly. And so it's hard to stay professional all the time with that from my side, but yours is like a completely different level, especially like
Four
I think
children's a lot.
Yeah, like even if we had two, the dynamic would be very different. But I can't imagine 4, and I can't imagine, like, if you worked from home, I feel like you could manipulate that a little bit better, but that stinks that you're not able to take a lot of vacations for that. And also, you're away from all your family, so you don't have that community besides us, right, to help out with that. And I know we've done it here and there.
But it's a lot of random stuff where it's like, it's stuff that usually, it's a lot of random medical stuff. The dentist, the orthodontist, stuff where like a parent has to be there because they want you to fill things out.
Yeah, so for me navigating that water, it is very difficult because, if you get into an argument or you get into a disagreement or there is some ill will, I send a good morning message to my wife every morning. If the first thing
that's sweet.
If the first thing I get back is annoyance or aggravation, then it throws my mood off. But I have to understand, like, hey, she's not just getting up. This isn't her first thing, right? She's usually being woken up by the child now because the child gets out of her room, or maybe the dishes weren't completely squared away, or whatever the case was. And so it's definitely difficult. I would say probably one of the worst days I've had in a while happened on Tuesday. I got a phone call at 4:30 in the morning. Hey, this is your trash company. We're here to pick up your dumpsters. The gate's locked. Ignore the phone call. Text me. Call me again. Ignore them. Get the text message like, hey, we're trying to pick up your dumpsters. Like, the gate's locked. What's going on? And so I sent him my warehouse manager because he's there at 5 a.m. every morning. And, that just threw my entire day off from, because it wasn't necessarily waking up me. It was calling me in such an early hour that it was waking up my wife. She gets up at 7:30 to get up with the kid, and, getting up 3 hours early or being disturbed 3 hours early is...
It's major. Throws off her whole day.
And so... Because there's something I've learned. There's morning people, and then there's night owls, and they marry each other. Very rarely are two people the same thing.
Yeah.
How dare you? I feel personally attacked. But yeah, no, like, so you have to kind of balance it out. But, Tuesday I was really pissy all day. And, my team was able to understand kind of my aggravation and kind of gave me a little bit of grace with my attitude. And so that was really good. But I will say, like, you got to be a team. You're going to have disagreements. It's being able to navigate those waters and those disagreements to where you don't bring it into work. So
a trick that I've learned that works for me, and not everyone's situation this can work, but it can work for some people. They just never think about it. Is we have lunch breaks, and a lot of people, they get some leeway on how they choose to use that lunch break. If they're hourly, they can take an hour for lunch. They just got to work an hour later.
Mm-hmm.
And what I choose to do on days, I usually have a set schedule. I got a gym right next to my office. I'll just go to the gym for 40 minutes. Use my lunch break. Just don't eat. Just go run. Do something to work out the frustration. I've got a motto, and that is I've never left the gym feeling worse. Sometimes I wasn't feeling better, but I've never left the gym feeling worse.
I can disagree. I've left the gym feeling worse.
Not mentally.
Freaking leg days.
Not
Yeah.
mentally.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're walking like Yosemite Sam.
so super funny story about leg days. My wife Snapchatted me, and I'm listening to it in the office. I'm standing, in my doorway because my doorway's in the main hallway going to the call center, and my wife just out loud, because I have it on Snapchat and I turn the volume up to listen to it, is I just completely wrecked my ass at the gym. And I'm like, oh god. Yes, because everybody in the office needed to know that she wrecked her ass. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to figure out something to do, and the gym definitely helps.
Yeah, and people can take that of, hey, you don't. Some jobs are stressful. Dealing with people, dealing with idiots, is stressful. You can use your lunch break a lot of different ways to alleviate that stress. You can go to the gym. You can go out to your car, read if you want to read, or watch a show, or you don't just have to eat at your desk if your schedule is such that you can afford to use that hour.
Well, I will say, guys, we're going to take our break. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Oh, you can hear us?
Oh, we're live again. All right, so we're back from our break, and we were wrapping up, just talking about like managing everything. Going from not letting your home life bleed into your work life, right? And so, kind of talking about some of the things that we do to cope with that. You had mentioned the gym, and just kind of bettering yourself altogether. What are some things that you, Leather Daddy, like to do?
So, I think a very important thing that people strive for,
Is smoking.
that people should strive for, is some kind of personal growth. So,
Amen to that.
having some kind of thing that you're progressing on, some kind of goal, is very important. It gives yourself something to focus on, and you can kind of fall into this state of you're putting the journey before any sort of destination. One thing for the past year or so, I've been using different fitness goals as things to focus on.
Nice.
And it's more than for a little while I was losing weight, but you can choose different things, add some variety in your life. For last summer, a goal a goal that I said, I want to get better at running, and so I just focused on trying to work on my run speed for the whole summer, and I had fun with it.
How dare you want to do cardio? This is a room of weightlifters. Damn it.
I only ran. I set a rule for myself because I don't like running. So I start all my workouts with a run, but I was only going to run 1 mile, and I was just going to run that mile as fast as I could, and then I'd go lift weights. So that's how the faster I get it done, I don't have to do it anymore. Then I can go work out. So that was the incentive there, and I got pretty fast with it. I got under 7 minutes with a mile. Very happy with that. But now it's time to move on to the next thing. Now my little baby weak chest, I got to start working on that.
Hey, you can be like Mufasa and do push-ups every day.
Oh yeah.
It's the only way I can get my chest stronger. My back, strong as heck. Chest, garbage. So I've been doing push-ups.
Don't even. Your chest wasn't bad.
But people have 4 core areas that they can do some kind of progression, some kind of growth in. And all of that I was just talking about is just one of the 4. Just the body. There's 4 areas I like to think of. There's the body, there's the mind, there's the spirit, And then emotional it can be viewed as its own sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I would definitely say, like, working on your body is definitely going to help, right? So,
It helps all of it, really.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you look at most of the super successful people in the world and super, happy with their progression, a lot of them are into a fitness, facet of some sort, whether it be running, whether it be weightlifting, whether it be gymnastics, be like Jason Momoa and do, rock climbing. But, for me, that's not just it, right? Like, obviously your physical comes into play and how you feel and how you process and you're getting that stress off, but also, growing yourself mentally is massive to your point. Not to kind of caveat on some things I like to do, but, self-help books, management books, leadership books, right? Like, being that I am a manager, like, I have to know how to navigate certain waters, and so I've got an accreditation from my company where I went through their, management training, and then it was a 10-week course where we did 2 hours a week, and then we did homework in addition to, so almost like a miniature college class. But some of the stuff I like to do organically is read. So I've read Jocko Willnick's leadership books like Extreme Ownership, Militaristic Tactics and Strategies for Leading, The Dichotomy of Leadership. I just got done reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Something I like about all those things that you're listing there is to me, they're not just hitting one of those 4 boxes, they're hitting 2, because you're hitting the mental of just, working your mind, but you're also really hitting on that social, emotional, that interpersonal skills with the leadership aspect, because someone could have the most ripped body, be the most smartest guy in the world, and the most spiritual, but if he can't deal with people, he's missing one of the core 4 things.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is as leaders in our industries, right, like I would say that goes across all facets. Like, you have to develop those skills, you have to, perfect those skills, and the day that you think that you're good is the day that you lose. You have to continuously push yourself.
Yeah, because if you're staying stagnant, you're really just backsliding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mine, I focus a lot more on the spiritual side. So, being a Christian, I do my best to read my Bible every day. I read books related. I have my prayer time, and I do like acts of service. Like, for instance, I'm going on a mission trip to South Africa to do humanitarian work. We're building a library. We're passing out food. We have this really awesome creche where the kids can stay there during the day and the parents get to go work. So, and that's a free thing we do for the community. So for me, I focus mostly on that. Body comes second, and I feel like with the spiritual aspect, at least for me, it kind of flows into the emotional side, or the soul, if you want to call it that. And then mentally, I'm reading, right? I'm studying the word. So my focus is on that, but it ends up being multifaceted. And then even more so on the social side, I host groups where men get together and we talk about what it means to be a man and what that looks like, and challenge each other. We have this
accountable.
Yeah, we have accountability partners. Hey, I'm struggling with this. Help me with this. And so this, for me, I focus on that because it ends up being multifaceted. And also it brings peace, and because in doing it, I'm helping others. I'm being a servant, and I come from a very communal background, and I know we talk about that a lot. And
I mean, it's massive.
It is, and for me to give of myself to my friends, family, people in need, I feel like what I'm here to do, right? Biblically, that is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be going out and we can say make disciples, but really it's just show as much love to everyone around you so that they see what's inside of you. And for me, that's how I grow. That's how I And I have a wife who supports me, who does it too, and we push each other to be better. And I have a great community that we all do that with, and that's how I better myself.
I think something that both of y'all hit on, and I do this as well, and it's one of the most important things that a person needs to maintain after the forced mandatory education system up until high school is reading. I saw statistics. Maybe like 60% of people
I
after
hate
they
reading.
after they graduate, 60% of people never read another book.
Well, and
I force myself to.
I will say that the self-help books, like as you get into them, and the management books, like they definitely encourage you to read. And if you get into a topic that you really like, right, like you'll read it naturally. So, my wife has kind of introduced me to tandem reading. That's difficult. So like right now I'm reading 3 books. So I'm reading one for my daughter at night. It's Batman Nightfall. I just got done reading Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I think my next one is going to be the 12 Steps or 12 Rules to Life. And then I'm reading Tom Clancy's I think it's Flashpoint. I already read Zero Clearance, so I'm reading Flashpoint, and it's definitely one of those things where you kind of have to set goals and drive yourself. Like I know for you spiritually, you guys, you set books that you're going to read and discuss, and it was kind of like what we did for the tandem read with Subtle Art, because my wife also read it with me.
And that's so awesome that you're right for reading the same books at the same time, because then you're getting the social part of it. You're bouncing ideas off of each other. You're growing as a unit instead of just one person completely leading the charge and dragging somebody with you. That's awesome you're doing that.
And I will say that book teaches a lot, like not to plug the book, but I mean, you have to understand that there are things that you inherently care about. Like you inherently care about being spiritual. It's part of you. And you have to decide what matters to you and those values that matter to you. And, I think all 3 of us can agree that the values that matter to us is furthering our relationship statuses with our friends and our family and our partners, while also growing our spiritual side of it, because Mr. Spiritual over here neglected to say that we're all on that path. That he kind of led us to his church, and so we've all kind of rallied around that. And I will say Leather Daddy's family has definitely liked the church, and my daughter goes to the same church too. So you have to care. And I think that, working on stuff for you definitely helps. Whether that's you as an individual, you as a partnership, you as, the leader, you as an employee. Like, those things definitely help progress you further.
You gotta find the thing to work on to set some progress in your life so that life can be a journey. Because if all you do is just focus on the goals, like, all right, I want to get this house, I want to get this promotion, I want to have another kid, I want to do this, I want to do that, you're not really living in the now, enjoying what's happening now, enjoying the satisfaction of achievement.
Yeah, you have to change your values, and that the book talks about it. Like, you have to talk about, like, you have to change your values, because I will say to those goals right there, right, like, so very young decided that I wanted a house, I wanted a family, I wanted a management position in my industry. Well, I got all 3 of those back to back to back when I was 23.
Now what situation?
24. And so now I'm sitting here at 23, 24, essentially getting all of my life accomplishments that I wanted. What do I do now? Well, you have to change your values. If you focus your values on something that's a physical, tangible thing, you'll never continuously grow. If you focus it on more like, I want better communication skills, you'll always continue to work at that, because you'll never feel like you've hit that level. If you want to work on, I want to be physically fit, those are things that are going to come into place. Like, can I push my mile to under 6 minutes? Can I, bench 225? Can I squat 300 pounds? Those are things that you're always going to push. So if you pick a goal that is, or a value that is, kind of rooted in who you are, and you can't really attain, and it's more so a general sense, then you'll continuously drive to it.
And then you have like sub goals, right? Of tangible goals that you can reach. What is it? What is the saying? It's it's like something you can achieve to, something you in a time. It's smart goals.
Smart goals, yeah.
Smart. You make smart goals, right? Because you have this
Measurable.
generic, I want to be X, and here are some steps where I can go to get that. Because sometimes if you're too generic, you are missing the mark. You're doing all these sub things and you're not focused. But having, hey, in a year I want to lose 40 pounds, which is a lot. I'm not saying that. But, in a year you want to lose X amount, but here are the sub things I'm doing to achieve that, helps you reach that goal, right?
Break it down into bites.
Yeah.
Now, I think a trap that I need to say out loud, because it's one I've fallen into, it's one that a lot of men fall into, is when they're setting these goals, these things that they want to do, of what they say is important to them, there needs to be some awareness of one's identity, and that one can make something like work too much of their identity, or where they lose themselves. You're more than just the manager, you're more than just
The husband.
you're more than just the dad.
Yeah.
You need to balance all of those things to where if just becoming a workaholic isn't good, just becoming a dad who ignores his wife isn't good. You got to balance all those things, and setting the right kind of goals helps you maintain that balance.
And bringing in your family on your goals.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's really important that every family has some form of charter, right? What do we want to accomplish as a
Charter.
unit? Yes.
That's a big word.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, not
So,
necessarily
like,
big, but definitely.
What do you want to do as a family
It's a little
unit?
family
What-
Magna Carta.
Yeah, you should have something, and really you should write it down.
Well, I mean, it's also an accountability piece too in that aspect, because like, hey, if you communicate what your goal is out loud, your people, your community will help drive you there.
And if your community doesn't, you need to find a community that will.
Yeah, you might need a change in community. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are not meant to be in your life forever.
Right.
And those people you could be born with. Those people you could have relationships with since you were young. Some of them will come into your life at a middle-age time frame and go right back out of your life in a year. But those people are necessary, and they definitely change who you are.
Yeah.
Put yourself in like your shoes as a child, and you're riding with your parents in your car, and it's raining, and you're looking on the window, and there's a little water drops. People in your life are a lot like the water drops. You'll see the drops come together, and just sometimes they stay together a long time, sometimes they split.
You get deep over here.
I was always I had a unique philosophy. I had essentially brothers or sisters, whatever, but I didn't have friends. I had family, and then I had others, right?
Yeah.
They say that your friendship tier should be a 3-tier thing, and instead of having that middle tier, I just had a huge family community group that I trust with my life, right? And so these people I've had in my life, except for you guys, 10 plus years, right? Some 15 to 20 for some others. And it's just this family unit that I've created instead of friends. And, there's good and bad things about that, right? Because then that outer group is at arm's reach, which isn't the best. But I've had such a huge community in my inner circle that, I weed out, and I figure out who needs to be there, how they're building me up, and how I'm building them up, right? Because relationships are two-way streets, and if you're not getting anything out of it for a very long, I'm not saying cut people out that you're instantly not getting something from, right? I'm not saying that. But if the relationship is pulling you down, maybe they should be at arm's length for a bit, because you need people that's going to build you up, that's going to push you to be better. And we were talking at the gym the other day about alpha and beta men, but then there's these omega men that are in the back, of the wolf pack, and how we felt like neither one of us were really alpha or betas, that we're the person in the back protecting everybody, pushing everybody, making sure everybody's okay. And I think that people are so set on, I got to be an alpha. Even betas think they're alphas, right? But
Get away from
Yeah.
from the alpha mentality, because at the end of the day, all it is it's driving a separation between you and the people you love.
Yeah. Be the person who's pushing everybody to be better. Be that anchor in the group. And if you're full of a bunch of men who push each other to be better, or a bunch of people, it doesn't have to be men, a bunch of people pushing you to be better, guess what? You're going to be better.
No, I will say, like, there is definitely a healthy balance, right? Like, you have to push people, but going back to, like, it doesn't have to be men. You do have to have a semblance of people that align with you, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. Like, there's just that connection that you can't break, right? Like, and so that's, I will say that you do need to find your community and stick with your community, but you also need to find like-minded people in similar situations that are wanting to grow. And to your point, they don't necessarily have to be men, but it's a lot easier to drive that connection if you share some common struggles, right? Like, I'll never know what it's like for childbirth, hope to God.
Thank you. That I'll
Yeah.
never have to know that.
But, I mean, there is a different aspect of having someone who can go through similar situations with you, who have gone through similar situations. So,
You become a product of the 5 closest people that you keep around you, and
well, shit, you're just 5 closest people are your family, man.
I guess I'm turning into
They're actually in this outer circle.
So you pooping in diapers yet?
Yep. Bumping around.
Bumping around.
But also, you want to be, as dads, I want to be the best man I can be for my daughter. Right? And I want
100%.
her to see what a man can be, because I don't want her with some loser when she grows up because her daddy wasn't around and didn't show her what it meant to be loved. Right? That is our job as dads, is to show her what a man can be and how much love she should expect, because the love that we're giving, again on the spiritual side, is the love that we get from God, right? So He's our Father. I want to give that same love to my daughter. And I want her to come to expect that.
Whether you realize it in a situation or not, everything you do at every moment that they see is an example that they're soaking in, taking to heart. Everything that you do, the way that you interact with your partner, the way that you interact with them, you're showing them what is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that aspect, you also can't to be that father that's present, that's showing love. Like, you also can't sacrifice your provider
Mm-hmm.
status. Like, you have to be able to provide for your family, whether you're male or female, right? Like, I think that's everybody's job. But you also can't get so wrapped up in providing that you're absent.
Right.
And that's something I struggled with. In the industry of heating and air that I'm in, during summer, it gets really tough. Because not only do I have to care about my family, I have to care about all my customers' families too. Because, it's not fair to leave someone in a 90-degree house in the middle of summer. But you also have to find that balance. And you have to be able to separate and understand that your family comes first.
Yeah.
I get put in a situation seasonally in the spring and in the fall where being in the electrical business, the electrical power business, companies, they like to do maintenance when it's not too hot and not too cold.
Right.
When the weather's not of extremes, because that's when the power grid is the most stressed. So very often, either me or my guys, we got to go on jobs out of town, wherever duty calls, whether it be like an Exxon refinery or power plants.
Or
And-
working for Big Daddy Elon Musk.
Oh yeah, Big Daddy Elon Musk at a Tesla site, and that becomes tough, trying to balance travel.
Oh, traveling is so difficult. I recently had my first travel experience with my job. I was gone for 2 days, just 2 days, but it felt kind of like a lifetime. It was a little bit of a reprieve because, got to just do things that I wanted to, so like reading and kind of stuff like that, but at the same time, it's difficult because you're not with your chosen people, right? Mm-hmm. You're isolated, or you're with people that you kind of get along with, but you have to navigate those waters.
Yeah, on average, I'm gone a week to 2 weeks, probably every other month. I was gone here a month ago for 2 weeks in Texas, and it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, I was doing my reading today, and what it was saying was, if you aren't showing love to people, if that love isn't seen in you, then anything else you're doing is basically irrelevant. If you're providing, if you're whatever, all the other things you're doing, if they're not seeing that love come out of you, and it not just family, not just friends, everyone around you, if they're not seeing that love in you, then what you're doing isn't even worth it. And it hit me hard. It like at work, I get so annoyed at every little thing, right? Because it's just a freaking job. But in doing that, I'm not showing.
Yes.
I'm not doing it in excellence, right? Which is what you should try to do everything in excellence. But I'm also just not letting those people see the love through me. And it hit me hard today. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get my act together and be grateful for everything I have,
So a common saying I have at work is you need to figure your life out.
Yeah.
I tell that to people consistently, almost to the point where I might be an asshole.
I take a different kind of pressure on at work at times because the company I work for, I'm part of the division. That division didn't exist before me and a couple other guys started that group. So everything there, we're just kind of left alone, and we run the show. And everyone we've hired since then, it's our direct responsibility whether they keep having a job. And yeah, you hear companies say this bull of, "Oh, we're a family."
You're not.
I see it like I have an obligation to them, like they're my family, because it's like I got a guy I work with. He's like a little brother to me. I see it. I put it on me. I got to take care of him.
I would challenge you to change that belief into you're a high-performing sports team. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you out if you ain't doing your job. Now,
And I expect you to do the same for me.
we're all paid to win, right? So we're all paid to drive the boat in one direction and to win and succeed as a
Sports
company.
team. I like it.
And if my right tackle isn't doing his job and my quarterback's getting sacked all the time, then I got to make a play change. I got to move my right tackle off the field. Doesn't matter how much you like him, because I just recently had this happen. I had a manager that I managed with for several years that unfortunately ended up in some bad grace with our uppers, and they decided a time for a replacement, and so he was forced to take a step down, and they plugged in someone new. And as much as I like that individual, I have to step back and realize that they made that play call for the overall business. And so there are definitely times if you treat everybody like family at your work that you'll be blinded to the stuff that they don't do right.
Yeah.
I can see that, but I don't put up with shit just like I don't put up with shit for my kids.
Fair enough. Well, that's our time for tonight. So we'll be back again sometime in the future.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Sooner rather than later, but right now we're averaging one a month.
Next one, I'm assuming we're going to have some good Africa stories.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, and photos. Maybe we'll do a little photo montage in our
We'll show and tell.
Intermission break. But that's it for me, y'all. Any parting words for the viewers?
I would say focus on bettering every aspect of your life as much as you can, and find that community that pushes you to be better, because we're not meant to do this thing called life alone.
We're not meant to do it alone, and we're not meant to do the same thing stagnant forever on end.
Yeah.
Find something you want to do that'll give you some drive. Go do it with people that care about you.
At the end of the day, go figure your life out.
Dad approved.
Here we go. All right, y'all.